Would anyone like a copy of the recitations we do at the beginning and the end of the session?
I'm sorry, I saw Sopa's name. You're covering today?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry for setting up wrong.
No. Deborah, are there extra recitation sheets in the back for the people who just came in? Or Melinda's getting them? Yeah, okay. So good morning. My name is Bill Spangle. And we're here for our usual meditation session, about 50 minutes with a few comments. And a special welcome to those who are here for the first time. For your information, there's an official wiggle break like that in the middle for all people to let go of the effort of meditation, let go of whatever physical discomfort or tension might have built up. But that said, particularly if you're new to, well, not just new, anybody, if you find that the position that you're in is actually causing you increasing stress as you sit, feel free to move gently and find a position that's more comfortable for the moment. It's not necessary to feel like you're frozen or trapped in whatever meditation posture you've chosen. This morning is the first morning that the children's program has come back to life here. And it's more this side than that side, so perhaps I'm more aware of it than you are, but it will probably sound a little bit different for those with trained ears to know the difference. If we take a long view, meditation is a tool, a process that can allow us to connect to a fundamental or intrinsic sense of well-being. A sense of well-being, a sense of freedom that's not dependent upon external conditions. In the short term, meditation can allow us to find degrees of freedom within whatever circumstances arise, whatever patterns that are going on in our minds. But in this long view, there is this profound well-being that's possible to connect to. A complete freedom in the midst of whatever's arising. To connect with the practice in a way that allows us to get closer and closer to this, to connect more deeply. It's important to let go of the ways that we bet on circumstances or hope for circumstances to improve in order for us to become happy. There's nothing particularly wrong with that, no wrong with improving circumstances, not at all. But if we place all our hopes, if we place the burden of our happiness on how our relationships turn out, how our jobs turn out, how our financial situation turns out, our physical health, at some point these give out on us. Things change. So it's good to be able to set that aside for a moment and take some time to appreciate that it's possible to connect with the moments where we can discover degrees of freedom in our mind. And the way that we do this is by training ourselves so that we can allow the mind to settle. And then when we notice that the mind has become trapped by the habit of chasing after thoughts or experiences, memories, to simply let go of that. To let go in a way that doesn't have the spirit of getting rid of something, but just a letting go that allows for a very peaceful sense of not hanging on, not pushing away, just releasing and returning. So our recitation gives us an opportunity to set the stage for our practice. We talk about going for refuge. When we talk about going for refuge, in an ultimate sense, we're talking about going for refuge in this profound capacity for liberation and well-being that's intrinsic to our stream of experience, hidden right in the midst of it. In the meantime, we rely on the methods of practice. You could say that's the Dharma or the teachings of the Buddha. We rely on the example of the Buddha, who showed that it's actually possible. And we rely on the encouragement and example of friends on the path. Not only people who are deeply realized, but also just individuals who share our inspiration. So we begin the practice like that, thinking that not only do we wish for happiness, but all beings actually wish for a deep, abiding well-being. So we open our hearts and extend this wish that whatever we discover in our practice, that it may not only benefit ourselves, but benefit everyone we touch now and in the future.
Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
In our lives, we cultivate habits in our physical activity, our patterns of speech, and our patterns of thought, habits of mind. We cultivate these patterns you could say as a strategy to move towards that which is more pleasant and rewarding in whatever manner, and move away from whatever is unpleasant. There's a certain degree of tension that's built into that, into the habits of body, speech, and mind. So as we begin, it's good to check, to allow the body to become relaxed, to find a a posture where we have some sense of balance and stability, whether it's sitting on a cushion, sitting in a chair, could be even lying down or standing. But to find a way to allow the excess tension to release. The speech naturally subsides as we remain quiet. The habit of the mind to talk to itself is another situation. We can offer this habit to grasp after things, the task of simply attending to one aspect of our experience. The flow of the breath. Allow the awareness to discover the stream of experiences associated with the flow of the breath in and out. To emphasize relaxation, we can attend to the overall experience of the body moving in connection with the breath. To emphasize vividness, we could pick one point, like the sensation of the air flowing in and out of the nostrils. When the habit of mind to chase after thoughts and make up stories takes hold and we find ourselves lost, we simply peacefully let go of that and return to the object of the meditation. Vividly finding the experience and relaxing directly into it.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you all. Before we go downstairs to have tea, which is before we come back for our question and answer session, before all that, just a few reminders. One is that tomorrow evening is the last session of, I think it's the last session of Jeff and Sally's care and feeding of your daily practice session. So that sounds like the discussion. It's not the last one? It's the third one.
2 more. There's 5.
Oh, 5. Well, it would be the last if there were 4 like I thought there were, but they're good, thank you. This is, the limits of my knowledge is great. So that's one thing. So there are 2 more, and you can actually catch up on those online on the video archive. And the other thing that I want to mention is just a reminder about Khenpo Rinpoche coming in June to oversee the celebration of the completion of the 3-year retreat out at the retreat land. And the details of the program are online, and you can register for the teachings that will happen here the week before, which is June 7th, 8th, like that? 8th, 9th, 10th, and the 12th. So the details there, you can see those. And the retreat opening will be the next weekend on Saturday. But I just wanted to mention 1 or 2 things about Khenpo Rinpoche. We've talked more about the program and less about him. But for those who didn't have an opportunity to meet him last year when he was here, he grew up in, he was born in Tibet, and he went to a monastery at a very young age, and that's where it was in a very remote area, and that's where he met Bokar Rinpoche, who was a little bit older. And Bokar Rinpoche was a recognized incarnation, and Khenpo was just a little monk and actually did not have many resources in his family. But Bokar Rinpoche took him under his wing, and so they were close from a very young age. And after they had to leave Tibet, they left together and stayed for a while at Kala Rinpoche's very first monastery, or the spot where Kala Rinpoche came to land as a refugee in the Darjeeling area. And Bokar Rinpoche described sleeping underneath. There was kind of a concrete terrace that was kind of cantilevered out, and there was some space underneath there. It was kind of a modern-day cave, really. They stayed there together, and then as things came together, Bokar Rinpoche went through a series of longer retreats, and at the same time, Khenpo Rinpoche went off to the monastic colleges and studied what would be the kind of the equivalent of the PhD program in Buddhist studies. And the day that he got his degree, he got on a bus and went back to Bokar Rinpoche and spent all his time with him. So between the two of them, we had this incredible resource of somebody who had this very, very detailed, lengthy academic study with someone who had more than a decade of intensive meditation experience in retreat. And this is after Bokar Rinpoche passed away in 2004. Khenpo Rinpoche took over the leadership of the monastery and also the various programs that Bokar Rinpoche had started, including a 3-year retreat in right at the monastery, which our friend Eric Triplehorn, who is now Khenpo Rinpoche's translator and will be coming back with him, where Eric did a 3-year retreat. And Khenpo Rinpoche is, it's very rare for us to have the opportunity to meet somebody and spend a little time with somebody who has basically been soaked in the Dharma from a very young age and really taken the practice to heart. So just on that level, I wanted to share just a little bit about Khenpo Rinpoche and his background. He is a delight to be with. He is an animated storyteller. And there are, in one case, I remember Eric trying to translate a story. And I had been watching Khenpo Rinpoche, and I kind of got, just with a few words in Tibetan, I got the idea which story it was, and I knew exactly what he was saying by his gestures and his animation. And I just wanted to, Eric, it's like this. Don't worry about the words. Just pay attention to what he's showing. But it was a delightful experience. But he has that kind of energy and capacity for communicating the sense of the Dharma. So I wanted to mention a little bit about Khenpo Rinpoche before we had our coffee break. Are there other announcements? I look around to see if there. Dora, what would you add?
I don't know if anybody's here who could announce there's that cooking training. It's next Saturday, I think.
Oh,
and I know it goes on the community listserv, but a lot of people aren't on that. So I don't know if people know about it. I think it's coming Saturday, and it's for, 1:30 to 3. And it's for people who might be interested in learning about how to help cook, either out at our retreat land, where we'll begin to have short retreats from time to time, and or helping to cook for visiting teachers such as Khenpo Rinpoche. So yeah. Yeah, it's here.
So that is one of the things that will happen along with the completion of the 3-year retreat, is that the retreat land will be opened up, and we now are going to be in a transition of shifting back to doing shorter retreats. And I mentioned Eric, now Lama Eric, but he'll be leading a couple of retreats in September. That's also, I think the information's on the website now. And without further ado, slightly brief further ado.
Yeah, Diane reminded me that this Saturday after the cooking is we get to die again.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's
from
right,
3 to 5.
3 to 5, befriending death. It's either there's more to death than dying, or there's more to dying than death. Both of them work really well, but it's a great opportunity to become part of a long-term discussion of that. Yeah, so. And Deborah.
I'd just like to introduce Thomas and Michael, who are visiting this morning. Well, not necessarily visiting, and Thomas and Michael are here this morning, so I just wanted to introduce them. And is there anyone else I missed who's new who would like to say hello?
There are a few people who came in at the last minute, but
yeah. Okay, thank you.
We can introduce ourselves, and as always, anybody who's here for the first time or new or even been here a long time but has not said hello in a while, please take advantage of the opportunity. If you'd just like to introduce yourself, to myself, Bill Spangle, or Dora DeCourcy, we're both associate teachers here. And without further ado, let's go have some tea. And we may even meet the kids. Thank you.